Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about something that's probably happened to you and maybe even more than once. You get a raise, maybe it's a 5% or 10% raise, or maybe you switch jobs and you get a 20% bump. You're excited, you're feeling like you finally made it to the next level. You're thinking, hey, now we can get ahead, we can save, we can pay off that debt. But then, like 6 months go by, a year goes by, and somehow you're in the exact same financial position you were before the raise. So actually, sometimes even you're a little bit tighter than where you're at. What happened? Well, I like to call it income creep or lifestyle inflation. And it's actually one of the biggest wealth killers I see in my industry. It's really the silent assassin of financial progress. So actually, a shocking thing is that studies show that for most people, when they get a 10% increase to their income, their spending actually goes up by 9% or more. You're not getting ahead if this is what happens. And actually, a lot of times people are going further backwards. And especially when you start factoring higher tax brackets and just different things that come along with that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how to defeat income creep, how to get your family on the same page financially on this, and also equally as important, how to make sure your next raise actually goes to changing your life instead of just changing your lifestyle a little bit. So I've heard it around a few times. It's getting more common with what income creep is, but simply like it's really just as you earn more money, you basically spend more money. That's all it is. So, and actually a lot of times it feels totally justified in the moment. Maybe you get that raise, you get an extra, whatever, $500,000 a month. And what a lot of people think on the very first month that happens, they're like, man, we've been so stressed out financially for the last couple of years. Let's go for a nice dinner and celebrate. We deserve it. Second, third month, they're thinking, you know what? We're doing pretty good. Got that raise. Why don't we upgrade and afford that nicer car? It's only a couple $100 more a month. It's not a big deal. A couple months after that, it's like, yeah, you know what? The kids should be more events. We should be going out doing more things. 6 months, upgrading the phones, moving the plans, getting that, for us where I live, getting that snow shovel service in there. But then a year later, you look at it and you're like, why am I living paycheck to paycheck again? Because none of those decisions on their own is irresponsible. It's just collectively, they've consumed your entire raise. And a lot of times more. So you don't want to put yourself in that position because actually people experience something that's called hedonic adaptation. I didn't know what that was. I have to look it up. But basically what it means is like we quickly adapt to higher standards of living and they become our new normal. That luxury car smell, you stop noticing after a couple weeks. But you're stuck with that payment for several years. And there's a book, The Millionaire Next Door. Thomas Stanley, he actually found that the biggest predictor of wealth wasn't a high income, it was the gap between your income and your spending. So when he interviewed thousands of millionaires, he found that most didn't drive luxury cars or live in large houses, extravagant lives. They simply kept their lifestyle stable, and then as their income grew, they invest that difference. So what I find for most people, if you're not able to create some level of wealth on your income right now, you could double that income and you're probably not going to build wealth either because you're just used to that slow income creep. You don't just double right away. It increases over a period of time and your spending just naturally increases to that level, really your level of comfort. So this is really where it gets challenging. Income creep is hard enough to fight on your own, but when you have a spouse or family, that's when it becomes a team sport. You got to get everybody on the same page. And often I see one partner gets a raise and they want to save it. The other partner says, finally, we can redo the kitchen, get that reno done. Neither person's wrong, but without alignment, someone's going to be resentful that the raise is just going to disappear. It's not going to where they want to go. So I really encourage you to talk about the money, having the conversation with your family, and obviously the right way. So a couple of ways to start that conversation is, one, you can ask, what would change in our lives if we had more money? Don't start with a budget and spreadsheets. Start with your dreams, what you want to accomplish. Ask your partner, hey, if money wasn't so tight, what would we be doing differently? What would be different about our lives? and listen to the answers. Like really listen, because they might say something like, oh, I wouldn't feel stressed every time we check the mail, get those emails in there, phone calls. We could take the kids on a real vacation. I could work less, spend time at home. We could retire earlier. And those are important to hear because each one, they're they're that person's actual values. I encourage you to write them down and have these things become your why for fighting and creep, your purpose. Another conversation you're gonna have after that is, what if we pretended we didn't even get the raise? Well, that's a powerful thought. What if you just didn't tell your lifestyle, you just stayed everything the same, that the raise even happened? You could keep your lifestyle the same and just save that entire increase. The beauty of this approach is you're not asking anyone to sacrifice. You're already living on your current income. You already have a working budget, even if it's an informal one, you know what you can spend every month. Why not just keep doing that? See, the hardest thing about money isn't the numbers, it's really the behavior. And the easiest behavior change is actually no change at all. So that might be something to think about. Another level you could do is maybe you look at, what we call the 50-30-20 split, budgeting idea. And that's only with the new income. Because if keeping the whole 100% just feels too restrictive, you could take 50% and put that directly into savings or investments longer term, automate it. 30% can go to your midterm, short-term goals, vacations, home improvements, paying down debt, things like that. And then the other 20% can go to your lifestyle upgrades. Go out for dinner a little more often, or nicer dinners, activities for the kids, small indulgences. That way everyone wins. You are improving your lifestyle, but you're also improving your investment, your financial future as well. Because, that way nobody feels controlled, no one feels deprived. Having this family money meeting is something I recommend to all my clients. Schedule, whether it's monthly, every couple months. You want to make it pleasurable, you want to make it fun. Enjoy the time you're having out there. It shouldn't be stressful, shouldn't be work. And you want to review your spending together. No judgment, just awareness. You want to celebrate your wins. We stayed under budget in the groceries, whatever that might look like. And you want to discuss upcoming expenses. Check on your goals, your progress, and see how you're doing. Like, just kind of get an idea. If you're reviewing that often, you're going to be in a better position, because we all know this. One of the leading predictors of separation or divorce is financial arguments. But people who have regular meetings, conversations, whether structured or more informal, you have a significantly higher relationship satisfaction. So the money talks should not be money fights. They're really a time for you guys to dream together and start building that financial future and having that conversation, making sure everyone's staying on the same page of where you want to go and what you want to accomplish.